On Sunday, the F1 world mourned the loss of Sir Frank Williams, founder of the Williams F1 team. A fiercely competitive man and a racer at heart, Sir Frank grew Williams into a race and title-winning juggernaut through the 1980s and 1990s. He oversaw 114 race wins, 7 drivers' titles, and 9 constructors' crowns. Despite a life-changing accident in 1986, Sir Frank continued to be a highly influential character within the paddock. A legend in every sense of the word. Rest in peace, Sir Frank. Hello everyone and welcome back to the 5 Red Lights podcast. My name is Aaron and I am your host. Today we are going to be looking ahead to the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, the first ever race in Jeddah, the brand new street circuit, high speed street track, which could be quite fun. So we're going to be discussing the title fight between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton and who's going to have the upper hand this weekend. There's one other major battle in the Constructors' Championship and the Drivers' Championship as well, therefore too, between Ferrari and McLaren. So we're going to talk a little bit about those. I'm going to throw in my predictions and we're going to talk a little bit about the controversy behind this weekend's Grand Prix.
1 light, 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights, and it's go!
So we're going off to Saudi Arabia, whether we like it or not. But before I dive on in, please be sure to follow me on Twitter and subscribe to the channel. It would help me out immensely. And if you enjoy the content, definitely hit that button. If you enjoyed this video, leave a thumbs up, give it a like, and chuck your predictions down in the comments below. So this one, I think, is going to be right up Lewis's street, pun intended. Mercedes have been strong on tracks that have required a high top-end straight-line speed, and it's also got those longer sweeping corners which the Mercedes generally favours and excels at compared to the Red Bull. Throw in the Toto promised spicy engine from Brazil into the mix, and Red Bull are very much backs against the wall in Jeddah, and you can see the fun layout there. A lot of the corners should suit the Mercedes, but it's a new track surface. Who knows what's going to happen? Qatar was a bit of an unknown as well, and Mercedes came out very emphatically on top there. They could do the same again this weekend, or it could be really even, or it could be a Red Bull track. Who knows? The lower rake philosophy of the Mercedes, even though they've managed to find a way of getting more rake into the car with this clever suspension and the rear wing and whatever that they're doing, and the Red Bull claim is illegal, which, you know, if it's illegal, put up and shut up, Red Bull. If you think it's illegal, protest it. Stop just, you know, blowing hot air out into the world. But it should suit that lower rake philosophy of Mercedes compared to the Red Bull higher rake. It's slightly less agile, but this is a track that's going to should suit on paper a car that is a little bit more benign through the corners and gives you a more stable platform and a consistent base to maintain the speed through the corner. Also factor in, even though the Mercedes have had like a higher drop in performance on their engines this year, Lewis does have 2 power units that are fresher than Max's. Honda can claim all they want that the drop off is negligible, but that will play, you know, that will play into things, because if it's a worn component, there's more likelihood that it's going to wear out. Yes, if it wears out faster, then that could also come into the equation. But Max's engine has been in there since Sochi, I believe. They may have rotated the engines as well. I mean, we're not privy to all of that, but that's a possibility. Max's engine might start getting a little bit tired, especially if it's a flat-out circuit like people are expecting it to be. And also, Lewis has a lot of momentum. He's won the last 2 races. Momentum is everything in sport. Momentum can change very quickly, by the way, as it has done. Max was, you know, on top of the world in Mexico, and it looked like he was within a hand's reach of winning the World Championship. But Lewis has turned everything on its head, and there's no reason why it couldn't do the same again. That being said, the pressure is all on Lewis, because one mistake and Max could become a world champion this weekend. He only needs to outscore Lewis by 18 points. Easy, right? As for the other battle in the Constructors' Championship between Ferrari and McLaren, Ferrari are well in the driving seat now. McLaren had a bit of a disaster over the triple header, only scoring 4 points. Ferrari, by contrast, have had a fabulous run. They didn't pick up any podiums, but they did pick up a third place in the sprint with Carlos Sainz in Brazil. They've massively outscored McLaren, and it's turned that battle completely on its head. It's a 39.5 point gap, which is going to be mighty tough to overturn. And should Ferrari finish ahead of both McLarens again, if they haven't already, they will sew up that third place in the constructors, bar the shouting. Be, quite an achievement for Ferrari, considering where they were last year and the skullduggery, you could say, with the 2019 engine, which they then had clipped, and the car just wasn't very good. They've bounced back. Charles and Carlos are driving superbly, and McLaren just haven't been able to get Daniel settled in that car for him to really access his potential and support Lando, really, because Lando has been excellent for much of this season. And when Lando's had some tough days recently, Daniel hasn't been there often enough to keep the charge going for McLaren. But as I said with Mercedes, this could play to McLaren's strengths versus Ferrari. Think back to Monza. McLaren were absolutely stunningly quick there, and they were in the race win fight on pure merit before Verstappen decided to use Lewis Hamilton as a climbing frame. And again in Sochi, McLaren were really fast. And you take elements of those two circuits, so Monza and Sochi, and they're there in Jeddah. On paper, we haven't seen the cars on track yet, so we don't really know how the cars are going to respond. So, in theory, McLaren could be in a very strong position, not just to beat Ferrari, but they could get amongst the front two as well, the front two teams. They could really cause some problems. If Red Bull have a tricky weekend, the last thing they're going to want is Lando Norris or Daniel Ricciardo getting in the way again, like they did at Monza, and causing a little bit of upset. Hopefully, for Mercedes, they won't be right next to Verstappen as they come out of the pits. They want to be way up the road so that they can take the title fight to Abu Dhabi. But if McLaren get in amongst the act, then it could become extra spicy and things could be really interesting as the race pans out. But McLaren have had some bad luck recently, and that needs to take a serious U-turn. Let's move on to my predictions then. This is going to be a really tricky race to call. There's potentially lots of safety cars. There's potentially lots of overtaking. There's potentially not a lot of overtaking. So we just don't know. You've got to. You can see the first corner there in the picture. Who knows how easy that's going to be to overtake at. The last corner is pretty quick, so if you can get a good run there, or someone makes a mistake on older tyres or something, you could be in with a chance of making the move. A little bit like in Qatar, where the DRS was very powerful. There are 3 DRS zones around this circuit, so overtaking could be really good, really easy, or it could be really tricky despite the 3 DRS zones because it's so narrow. Therefore, pole position, qualifying, given that there's 3 DRS zones and the car suits this sort of layout, I'm going to go for Lewis Hamilton on pole position. He's in fantastic form. He's hitting his purple patch just at the right time if he wants to win this World Championship and steal it away from Max. He needs to take pole position to do that, and then he needs to disappear into the distance and hope that nobody throws it in the wall. Looking your way, Mazepin. So I'm going Hamilton on pole with a qualifying top 3 of Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen and Valtteri Bottas. Touch boring, I know, but on paper these are going to be the top 3, the fastest 3 guys. Who knows what Sergio Perez is going to offer us. He can deliver in qualifying, but if the Red Bull is struggling, he drops further back, as we saw in Qatar, and we've seen other places this season. But when the Red Bull is on song, like it was in Baku, he was right there. Okay, he didn't qualify very well because of the red flag, but he raced well and won the race. He won that race. Whether, you say that Verstappen's tyre blew up or not, Sergio managed his tyres, kept it all together, didn't drive straight on when he needed to turn left, and got to the flag first. So it's very possible that Sergio would be in the mix as well. And like I said, McLaren could be there too. There could be an awful lot of yellow flags as well in qualifying, and red flags. Who knows what is going to happen? All it takes is someone to crash at the wrong moment, and one of the big boys could be in big trouble with their qualifying position. And if overtaking is as tricky as it looks potentially, that could be championship deciding in either the drivers or the constructors, because there's only 5 points between Red Bull and Mercedes, and there's only 8 points between Max and Lewis. I cannot remember a championship fight in both the drivers and the constructors at the top being so close with 2 races to go. It's just not happened for so long. You get one or the other, but usually the drivers, to be fair. But it's almost unprecedented. It's fantastic. Moving on to Sunday and our first ever race on the streets of Jeddah. Now, it could be a chaotic race, and a chaotic race was how Lewis Hamilton won his first Grand Prix back in Canada 2007. He spent most of it at the front, but he had to manage 4 safety car periods. And there could be several safety car periods here. There could be a red flag quite easily. But Lewis has all the experience he could possibly need to deal with all of those situations. He's done it before. He's seen it all in Formula 1. And I think Lewis is going to win this race this weekend and take the title fight to Abu Dhabi. Behind him is going to be Max Verstappen, keeping him honest all the way through. I can't see Bottas getting involved in the fight for the victory. I just don't think he'll have enough pace. He's not going to come through from maybe a third on the grid or further back. If Bottas is going to win this race, he has to start at the front, but he's not going to win the race because he'll have to then move over for Lewis, unless Lewis has crashed or is way out of the points. So that's Bottas' way of winning the race. In third place on race day, I'm actually going for Lando Norris, not for Valtteri Bottas. I can see Bottas having a bit of a sticky weekend again, like he did in Qatar with the puncture, and then things all sort of fell apart for him, which would be disastrous potentially for Mercedes in their battle for the Constructors' Championship. But I haven't got Perez in here either in my top 3, so that would be a little bit of a saving grace for them. So my podium is Hamilton, Verstappen, Norris, but it could be anyone. Literally anything could happen. This is going to be pretty exciting. Even if there's not a lot happening, there could be potential for someone. We don't know how strong the undercut's going to be, or if the overcut is the way forward. This could be a strategical race. This could be anything. It could be a procession, or it could be complete carnage. Who knows? Let's hope it's carnage. That'd just be a bit more fun, wouldn't it? Now, my team to watch this weekend is McLaren, because they have the potential to be in the fight for victory or podiums potentially, but they could also slip well behind Ferrari and be maybe even behind AlphaTauri, and it could be another tricky weekend for the Woking-based team. So let me know your predictions down in the comments section below, or tweet me at 5_red_lights on Twitter. Now, ever since the race in Jeddah was announced, there's been a bit of backlash, and with good reason, because Middle Eastern countries have highly questionable human rights records. Qatar was subject to this as well. They're constructing their stadiums for the World Cup next year, and that's been far from a clean bill of health in terms of how it's been done and how it's been conducted. The ethical standards just leave a little bit to be desired in some of these countries at times. Now, I am someone who stands for equality and fairness for all, so I try my best not to judge anyone too prematurely and judge them by their actions. And you can talk a good talk, but you've got to go and deliver. You've got to show that you are a good human being. Now, shining the biggest sporting lights on these countries can actually highlight their issues and put them front and centre, forcing them to act in a way that is considered acceptable. And that is good, because it means that they have to go and put on a good face and prove that they can do it. And that's a first step in the right direction for me. And these countries, of course, they have histories that we need to understand, because they're very different from ours in the West. So while yes, they should be scrutinised, we also need to be understanding of their lifestyles and their histories in such locations. It's a different way of living. But that doesn't mean that they can get away with the things that they do. And not to suggest anything, I think we all know what's going on there, to be honest. It does take maybe shining a big light on it to really bring it to the forefront and maybe hopefully affect positive change. Now, Formula One has Lewis Hamilton, and conveniently there he is in his wonderful pride flag helmet. It's a massive step, a brave step too. It's a black man who is living a Western lifestyle, championing these LGBTQ plus rights, and he does a lot of activist work with the Black Lives Matter and the Hamilton Commission. His name is the biggest in Formula One and one of the biggest in sport generally. So his voice comes with some clout, and Formula One as a company should follow his lead so much more closely than they are. The "We Race as One" motto is regularly mocked on social media, and this is something that is a serious issue, and the fact that it's being mocked highlights just how seriously some people are taking it. But although some people will just jump on a bandwagon, to be honest, in some cases it is rightly so being mocked, because they just don't seem to be adhering to their own pathway. And if it's up to Lewis Hamilton, who is fighting for a world championship in their sport, to be waving the flag and championing the cause, then Formula One need to really look at themselves and decide the way that they want to do this. The way they want to be perceived as a brand, and how they want new countries to come to them and be a part of the sport. Now, is it wrong that we're racing in the Middle East and in Saudi Arabia? I would actually say it's not, because of some of the reasons that I've listed before. We should be the bigger people in this case and offer them a chance to join the more modern world and encourage a more positive change with global attention and attraction. Formula One in Saudi Arabia and in Qatar, the World Cup in Qatar, it's going to shine a big bright light on them, and they're going to be under pressure. They're going to be scrutinised for some of the things that they have done and some of the ways that they do things, which is fair. But ultimately, I think, as Mahatma Gandhi proclaimed, be the change you want to see. And this should be F1's goal. Not "We Race as One." Be the change that we want to see. They should be going out and trying to affect positive change in these countries through sport, because it is possible. If we help promote positive change, we can make Formula One, we can make any sport, any country a better place, a better world to live in. My life is better for having Formula One in it. But if that comes at the expense of people suffering or being mistreated or harmed in various ways, then I can't stand by that. And it's something that Formula One has to address carefully. They have to manage their business product, but they must also think about their branding and how the sport and the way that we include others reflects upon that. Hopefully this weekend's Saudi Arabian Grand Prix can be the first step in affecting positive change in that country for the greater good in the future. So there you go, that is my thoughts ahead of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. My predictions as well. Chuck yours in the comments below. Let me know who you think is going to come out on top this weekend. And also, let me know your thoughts on F1 in the Middle East and in Saudi Arabia. Do you agree with the things that I have said, in that we can affect positive change and that F1 should be championing that, not just through the drivers but through themselves as a company? My name is Aaron, this has been the 5 Red Lights, and when the 5 Red Lights go out in Jeddah, I will see you next time. Bye for now.